Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Now I never really wanted to do anything political on this channel, and honestly I don't consider like human rights or things like that to be political. I think they're humanitarian issues. But the general election is coming up within the next year, and it's clear now, it should be clear to everybody, that the Tories plan to fight this election on immigration, so refugees, and culture wars, so things like woke, trans issues, this, that and the other, rather than focusing on the important things to people, which is the cost of living, and you know, all sorts of things that are just right in your face every day that people are worrying about. They're going to focus on this. And now James Cleverly has come out on Sky News this morning and just outright lied. He has outright lied to people. Okay, he's not just misinforming, he is outright lying. So I want to take a quick look at this interview this morning with Kay Burley on Sky News. We'll watch it and then I'll go over it and break down what he said and give the actual truthful account of what is actually happening and what the actual law is at the moment.
Is it illegal to come on a boat?
But where people have illegal migration facilitated
You're
by
calling
people
it illegal, though,
traffickers.
Foreign Secretary. Why are you saying it's illegal? It's not illegal.
Because we have legal routes, and we have routes which are clearly illegal.
Now, we do have legal routes to asylum in the UK. I think last year there were 4, and I think they've closed down 3 of them, so there's only one now, which I believe is Afghanistan. Using a little bit of logic, if you know anything about Afghanistan now, you know it was taken over by the Taliban. So in order for you to leave Afghanistan, you will have to break the law, because in Afghanistan the Taliban don't want people going to claim asylum in the UK. They're not going to allow, you know, British like the Foreign Office there to have an embassy or something like that. So just to leave Afghanistan, first you must break the Taliban's rules, right? And there is no access in Afghanistan, so you have to get out of there to use this safe and legal route wherever they've put it, right? So yes, there are safe and legal routes, but our obligations under international law are to the whole world, to every country in the world. So just having this one safe and legal route, or you know, call it a handful, unless you've got safe and legal routes in every country in the world, you're forcing people to use a legal process by first of all breaking laws. Okay, but we'll go into that in a bit, because I'm going to bring up the documentation on the UN Refugee Act and show you that it clearly states that everything that James Cleverly says in this interview is catered for in international law, which we're signed up to and have obligations to follow. So let's carry on.
So you say coming over on a boat is illegal, on a small boat.
Yes.
So why don't we arrest them?
Because the point
Why
is
don't we arrest them?
when we take people into basically.
And now, yeah, technically, if you enter the United Kingdom without documentation, without a passport, that is a legal entry. But, and this is a big but, if you claim asylum and you can show through your asylum claim process that you are genuinely fleeing persecution or war, or a multitude of other things, and that you, if you are to be returned to your country, you're in fear for your life. If you can show that, then you are exempt from any way that you choose to enter the country. We'll look in it and I'll show you that it says this. I'll also leave the link in the description for the entire document. But it clearly states that the means of entry that you use into a country in order to claim asylum is irrelevant. When you make that claim for asylum, it then becomes a legal process which is protected by law. Okay, so while it may be illegal, or this new bill plans to make crossing the channel in order to claim asylum illegal, that is directly contradicted by the UN Refugee Act, which states that the way you enter a country is irrelevant to your claim, and you should not be judged on the way that you make entry into a country. It is expected that you may have to use an illegal means to enter a country in order to make a legal claim. Because for most people, there are no legal or safe routes. Okay, they are forced to use traffickers. Anyway, let's carry on.
The protection of the UK state. We have to process them. And what we're doing is we're creating a system.
Illegally, as soon as they get on British soil, arrest them.
Well, look, semantically, the point is...
And now this is the point where he cannot just be honest and say, because logically it makes sense what Kay Burl is saying here. If they are breaking a law by entering illegally, then why aren't they arrested? And as he fails to explain properly here, they're not arrested because they have to have their claim processed. You have to determine whether someone genuinely is claiming asylum, because the argument is that while these people are all claiming asylum, not all of them are genuine, and that is true. But the misinformation comes when people think that the majority of them aren't genuine. Okay, when it's been proven time and time again from some countries up to 90% of people, and in general over 80% usually, 70 to 80%, are granted asylum after being found to be genuine asylum seekers. So we're not even talking about the majority of this amount of people, which is 45,000 I think it was last year. We're talking about 20 to 30% of them max, which is like 9,000 people. Okay, that should put it into perspective. 9,000 people, our population is 67 million people. Total amount of refugees in this country, I think, are about 350,000. It might be less than that. So it's not even a percentage of our population, these people. The other thing to put in perspective as well is the amount of money that's being spent. I mean, yes, it's a lot of money being spent on hotels. It comes to about £3 billion a year, I think, which to you and me is a lot of money, but in context to the entire country, right, it's nothing. Plus, the money being spent on hotels and all this stuff for refugees and asylum seekers comes from the foreign aid budget, which in itself yearly is £9 billion. So we're taking a third of that and spending it actually back in our country and giving it to hotel owners in this country, to businesses. So that's money that would never be spent in this country actually being spent. Although, my argument is the priority should be clearing this backlog of people out of hotels. Okay, deporting the people that have no right to be here and settling the people that do. That way, you're not spending £3 billion a year on hotels. You have these people integrated back into society. But anyway, I've gone on a tangent. Let's carry on with the interview.
The point is that we are making sure that we are now able to process those people, process them more quickly, more effectively, so that we can support the people who have a completely legitimate reason fleeing, pardon me, fleeing persecution, for example, the people who ultimately will have a right to be here from the people who should not.
This makes no sense at all, what he has just said. He said that the point is that we are now making it easier to process them and process them more efficiently. But what this bill is about is when these people cross the channel, that they are not given the right to claim asylum. They are deported straight away. So what is the point? It's just beyond comprehension. So it just take me a minute to think about the gymnastics in his mind here and how anyone can fall for this. I don't understand it. So the process of finding out whether someone is genuine or not requires them to come to this country and make a claim for asylum, which will then be processed, and that is the process of determining whether somebody is genuine or not. You can't do that before that process. It's just I don't understand how he's made this statement. How he's a smart man. He is a smart man, despite how stupid he looks saying this. He's a smart man. Okay, and I am by no means, I should have stated this earlier, I'm by no means an expert in international law or asylum law or even domestic law, right? But I have taken the time to read, to find out and research what that is, okay? So I'm not an expert in it, but I know the basic points, and anybody can do that, okay? But they are just praying that you don't. That most people are, without causing any offence, that most people are ignorant to politics, that most people are ignorant to law, that most people are ignorant to the facts, right? That people don't know that the UN Refugee Act exists, right? It's that, they're preying on that. They're preying on people's ignorance, and it is a shame, but it's true that people are ignorant, okay? Because through no fault of their own, people have to go to work every day. Now, you work all day, and you have the weekend off, right? Say you work like that. When do you have the time to sit down and study? Most people don't have the interest to sit down and study something like this, right? And this is why they're using these tactics, because they have absolutely nothing for anything else. Even this doesn't work. Even this doesn't make sense. So, how are they going to fix the economy? How are they going to lower inflation? Alright? The second point on this is, he said that we're making it easier to process people, or we're making that process more efficient, but he's given no detail on how they're doing that. And I would assume that from their track record that is just an empty statement that really means nothing. And in this next part there's a little piece from Lord Paul Butler. So this new bill now has to go, it's passed through the Commons again, it has to go back to the Lords. So this guy is a Lord, and he is stating, basically what I've just said, what's wrong with what James Cleverly has just stated. That basically he's lied, that he's not been honest. So let's listen to what he says, and then I think there's another clip from somebody else, and we'll just play that all the way through, and then I'll look at the documentation, and then we'll have a little final conclusion.
People have a right to travel and claim asylum where they wish.
In the first safe place.
No, they don't have. They do not have to claim in the first safe place. No, but they're wrong on that in international law, and the UNHCR is quite clear on that. If it was always the first safe place, then you end up with those places absolutely, completely full of people, and nobody else is involved.
So what he's saying here is actually what happens in general. So say in the war in Syria, the majority of Syrian refugees from that war actually stayed in Syria. They stayed in refugee camps within the country. The second biggest number of refugees claimed asylum in Turkey and the surrounding countries, so places like Jordan. And then the next biggest amount, which was, you're talking just thousands of people, rather next to the people in Syrian refugee camps who were in the millions, and plus in Turkey it was in the millions. By the time you get further into Europe, you're talking about thousands of people. So the next biggest country would be somewhere like Germany or France, which would take maybe thousands, but maybe hundreds. The smaller countries taking hundreds, and then you'd have us at the very bottom with like maybe 100 per year, right? So this document is the UN Refugee Act, and it governs the rights of everybody around the world to be able to seek asylum without discrimination in any one of the countries that have signed this document. So we have signed it, we were a founding member of it, and I'm just going to read it out. The convention, I'm just going to read out the most important part right here, which relates to everything we've been discussing so far. The Convention is both a status and rights-based instrument and is underpinned by a number of fundamental principles, most notably non-discrimination, non-penalisation and non-refoulement. Convention provisions, for example, are not to be applied without discrimination as to race, religious or country of origin. Developments in international human rights law also reinforce the principle that the Convention be applied without discrimination as to sex, age, disability, sexuality or other prohibited grounds of discrimination. So the next bit is what's really, really important here. The Convention further stipulates that subject to specific exceptions, refugees should not be penalised for their illegal entry or stay. Okay, so that basically says nobody claiming asylum should be penalised, should be stopped from having their claim listened to because of the way they enter the country. Where were we? This recognises that the seeking of asylum can require refugees to breach immigration rules. Prohibited penalties might include being charged with immigration or criminal offences relating to the seeking of asylum or being arbitrarily detained purely on the basis of seeking asylum. Importantly, the Convention contains various safeguards against the expulsion of refugees. So basically that's saying that no matter the way you enter a country, you must have your claim heard and processed in that country by that country, and that there are various safeguards against expulsion of refugees. That clearly says that you can't be deported before you've had your claim processed, and then you must be, deemed to have no legal right to claim asylum in that country, then you can be deported. It's important to note that when this is implemented properly and claims are processed efficiently, that this absolutely works. There is no problem with this legislation, with this act. There is nothing. So I'm going to leave the link in the description so you can read it all if you want to. I'm not going to go over all of it. It's a long document. But you will find that if you read this, and I have read it in full many times, you will find that almost every eventuality that you could conceive of has been accounted for in this document. It's very wide-reaching. It's all-encompassing in many areas. It's very rarely that something is contested with it. Now, other countries have broken the rules of this and implemented their own domestic laws which contradict this, and it's never received well. They lose standing on the world stage. And well, just to summarise really, and just to clarify as well, yeah, I am probably more of a left-wing person, but I'm not looking at this issue from a left-wing point of view. I'm looking at this issue from the centre ground, from the stance of the law, what the law says, and, you know, trying to decide whether we need to create new laws to deal with a problem that already has laws in place to deal with it that are very good and very efficient. My actual beliefs on this are that, one, you know, we should clear the backlog, process those people. If they have a right to be here, then they should be allowed to stay here. If they don't, they should be deported. There's no problem with deporting people that don't have a right to be here under law. People always say, you know, you're a lefty, you're a do-gooder, you're a Labour supporter, this, that and the other. And what are your solutions? You've got no solutions. But there are solutions, okay? And just one, to me, the most plausible one, would be to create a safe and legal route from France to the UK, or have asylum centres in France where people can make the claim for asylum in the UK from France, and the French have said that they're fine with this, that they would be okay with doing this if the British and French worked together and funded it mutually. Then have centres in France where people can be processed. That way no one has to use a people trafficker. That completely cuts out that route there. You would also, I'm not sure, like I say, I'm not an expert on the laws, but you could also probably say something like, if you did want to create a new law, to say something like, you know, if you do then use an illegal route, when we've actually set up this legal route that's easy for everybody to use and to have their claim heard fairly, then if you do actually use an illegal route, you have absolutely no right to claim asylum, but you can still go back and use the legal route if you want. That makes sense to me. Okay, I know there are a whole multitude of issues that people see with having, or see this as having like open borders and it's an invasion or something like that, but it's not. And these people, I'm not telling you to vote for any particular party, okay? I'll admit, you know, I've been a Labour voter in the past, but with this upcoming election, I may vote Labour, but I do not want to vote Labour. I don't want to vote for Keir Starmer's Labour. But I absolutely never vote Tory. You can guarantee yourself that. So, really, again, I'd advise you to go and read this document, get the facts, so you can know when ministers, members of our actual government, are sat there blatantly lying to you on the television. Because whatever you think, whatever your opinion is on this issue, it's helping nobody by being lied to. Okay, it's helping nobody by spreading misinformation, and it's helping nobody by trying to implement laws where laws already exist to deal with a problem that's there, right? Nobody wants people coming across the channel risking their lives. First and foremost, that should be our priority. Stop that, no matter the cost to our country. Just stop that, because that's terrible to happen in our waters, whatever your view. It should be anyway. But yeah, no doubt there's going to be more incoming in the next year, so I do plan to do more videos like this, because just from the way things have been going, you can absolutely see the trend, and that is just, you know, deal with these tiny little small issues that don't really impact anybody on a day-to-day basis, such as, you know, asylum seekers. I mean, how many people that are so virulently against asylum seekers in this country. I've ever met one. Okay, this is the thing that changed my mind on actually not doing the research and deciding to go and do the research, was meeting refugees and speaking to refugees and listening to their experiences, right? They've got no reason to lie to me, and I've spoke to so many that there is a clear pattern, right? And that you know, some of these people are chancing it, and the only way to stop that is to have a fair process and to allow that process to take place. So right, I've rambled on for too long. I'll see you in the next misinformation video. Bye guys.